Cities are major drivers of the global economy, with over 80% of GDP generated in urban areas. They're also major contributors to climate change. And according to UN Habitat, they consume 78% of the world's energy and more than 75% of the world's resources. They also produce more than 60% of greenhouse gas emissions and 50% of solid waste, and yet they account for less than 2% of the planet's surface. Now, they're very susceptible to the impact of climate change, and according to C40, 70% of cities are already dealing with the effects of climate change, and nearly all are at risk. Over 90% of all urban areas are coastal, putting most cities on Earth at risk of flooding from rising sea levels and powerful storms, which are becoming more and more frequent. If current urbanization trends continues, it's been estimated that 60% of the world's population will be based in cities by 2050, and material consumption in cities will grow from 40 billion tons in 2010 to about 90 billion tons by 2050. Now, this is important because the circular economy has some answers to bring to this challenge. 45% of the emissions globally come from the way we make and use products and food that circulate in our economy today. Carbon savings identified from modeling a circular economy approach in 5 key sectors, cement, steel, aluminium, plastics, and food, indicate that the equivalent to eliminating emissions from road transport globally. Together with the necessary transition on renewable energy, dealing with the material side of the economy is absolutely crucial. And the circular economy can support the creation of low carbon, thriving and resilient cities, and also tackle many global challenges, including climate change. And that is through looking at consumption-based emission, circulation of materials that allow us to be less reliant on the extraction of virgin resources, because of course, if you don't waste a material, you don't need to replace it, and displacing as well the extraction related emissions that go in the process. There is a clear role for city government as they drive the economy, as we've said previously, and urban decisions have an impact well beyond city boundaries. By embedding circular economy principles into urban policy levers, governments can bring about change to the use and management of materials in cities, and that could be through implementation of reverse logistics chains. And they can also deliver on urban priorities around access to housing, mobility, economic development in a way that also supports prosperity, jobs, health, and communities. The circular economy is a solutions framework. It gives the core principles from which we can design and plan. In the vision side of the equation, city governments can really embed the circular economy into their climate policies. And we've seen that at play in London, New York City, Milan, Sao Paulo, and Salvador, to name but a few. The engagement part is also very important, and city government can stimulate collaboration by convening city stakeholders and supporting the dialogue on circular economy and climate change. City governments can also launch and support communications campaign for business, citizens that support awareness raising. And we've seen that at New York City Climate Week, for instance, or London Repair Week. Urban management, well, that's another one of the important pieces of the puzzle, and cities have a particularly important role to play when ensuring the effective recirculation of materials, products, and nutrients in an urban area. Enabling this does require infrastructure, such as asset sharing infrastructure, mostly digital, but also physical. There are waste collection system questions associated with the circular economy, for instance, how to collect organic byproducts so those nutrient loops can be actually closed. Material banks, disassembly, recycling centers, and we can here quote the example of London Circular Economy Planning Statement, because it does include all of these elements. And Sao Paulo as well will be implementing separate waste collection as part of its climate plan. On procurement, which is another powerful lever, city government can procure circular economy products and services by embedding circular economy and CO2 intensity criteria in public procurement tenders. And we've seen that in Toronto and Cape Town. In terms of economic incentives, of course, city government can use fiscal levers to create enabling conditions and incentivize actions. Several cities have introduced forms of carbon pricing on the built environment and private vehicles, such as Tokyo's cap and trade program, London's ultra-low emission zone, and others. And today, 40 countries and more than 20 cities, states, and provinces use carbon pricing mechanism. According to the World Bank, these schemes cover 13% of global annual GHG emissions. Now, the circular economy is really a powerful framework to apply at national level, and we've seen that through the creation of many roadmaps and legislative frameworks. It happened in Finland, in Chile, in France, and is now really spreading globally. But the agility that a municipal government has and the power to actually implement changes at a scale where there's a massive concentration of wealth creation, but also material circulation, talent, and already existing infrastructure needs to be tapped if we're going to take that transition to the global scale. Thank you.